The best Resident Evil successor to release in the last decade isn't a horror game. It features zero combat, zero zombies, and absolutely no resource management. Yet it understands the soul of the 1996 original on a level that even Capcom itself often seems to have forgotten. This game confirms that the single most important element of the first Resident Evil wasn't the T-virus, the jump scares, or even the save ribbons. It was the Spencer Mansion itself. The game is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, and it's a pure, brutalist puzzle game. Its entire philosophy is built on one brilliant, defiant observation. The real antagonist of Resident Evil was never Albert Wesker or the Umbrella Corporation. It was the architecture. It was the house. Lorelei takes this single design pillar, the location as an interconnected, confounding puzzle box, and ruthlessly strips away every other mechanic. This isn't just another survival horror clone inspired by RE, it's a deep dive, interactive analysis of RE's core genius, and it proves that the combat and monsters might have been holding the original concept back. Think back to the original 1996 Resident Evil. What were the puzzles on their own? For the most part, they were glorified fetch quests. Find the shield crest, use it on the shield-shaped indentation. Find the armor key, use it on the armor-themed door. On their own, these are not puzzles. The real puzzle, the absolute genius of Shinji Mikami's direction, was the interconnectivity. It was the spatial challenge. I'm not just talking about the map. I'm talking about the mental model you had to build of the Spencer Mansion. The map was a tool, but the real game was played in your head. Now, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes understands this DNA perfectly. It presents itself just like a classic RE game, using those same disorienting, eerie fixed camera angles. It's set in an equally mysterious and oppressive European manner. It even features direct, low-poly homages that scream PlayStation 1. But it's crucial to understand why those camera angles are so brilliant. And it's not just for nostalgia. In Resident Evil, the fixed camera was a technical limitation that was masterfully repurposed into a tool for horror. It controlled what you couldn't see, building tension by hiding enemies just off screen. Lorelei takes this concept and evolves it for a puzzle game. The camera isn't hiding a monster, it's hiding a clue. It's hiding a number etched into the side of a vase you can only see from one specific angle. It's framing a painting in a way that obscures its true meaning. You are constantly fighting the game's presentation to unearth its secrets. It forces you to re-examine every single room, not for items, but for information, from every possible vantage point. The game is a constant, deliberate act of reframing your own perspective. But then it makes its most critical, defiant move. It removes the combat entirely. There are no enemies to shoot, no dogs to dodge, and this single decision is what elevates it from homage to thesis. By cutting out the enemies, Lorelei solves the one major, undeniable problem with Resident Evil's design: the friction of tedious backtracking. Let's be brutally honest. We all love Resident Evil 1, but we all remember that one damn hallway. The one with the 3 zombies, or later, the 2 hunters. You'd already killed them, but you had to run that hallway 20 times to ferry the blue gemstone or the wind crest. It was resource draining, it was time consuming, and after the 10th trip, it was just plain boring. This friction was a deliberate part of the survival design. It was meant to be a tax. Do you really want to go back to the save room? It'll cost you 3 shotgun shells and a first aid spray. This created a specific loop, but it was a loop that actively discouraged the one thing the other half of its design, the puzzle box, demanded: free, contemplative exploration. You can't stand and stare at a weird painting when a hunter is breathing down your neck. In Lorelei, the hallways are always empty. The game wants you to get lost. It invites you to stand still and stare at a bizarre painting for 20 minutes. It demands you traipse back and forth between the 3rd floor and the basement in a state of total, utter confusion, and it doesn't penalize you for a second of it. This is the core distinction. Resident Evil forces you to manage physical resources. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes forces you to manage intellectual resources. The The only inventory limit is your own memory. The only enemy is the gap in your own logic. The game is entirely, purely about information management. And by removing the combat, it allows that single brilliant mechanic to shine without any distractions. It's a frictionless environment for a high-friction mental workout. And this is where the dynamic completely shifts. This doesn't remove the tension, it fundamentally changes it. The tension in Resident Evil is acute, sharp, and ultimately fleeting. It's the economy of the jump scare. The dogs crashing through the window, the liquor on the ceiling. The first time, it's a 10 out of 10 horror moment. The second time, it's a mechanical threat to be dispatched. You learn the enemy placements, you master the shotgun, and that fear evaporates. The game becomes a known, manageable quantity. The tension in Lorelei and the laser eyes is the complete opposite. It's a chronic intellectual dread that builds over the entire game. It's the quiet, mounting panic of being stuck. There is no "you are dead" screen. The failure state is you, standing in a room, completely and utterly baffled, with no idea what to do next. The house mocks you with its silence. The puzzles aren't just use key A on slot B. They are games within games, fractured mazes, complex ciphers, and abstract visual riddles that all interlock. The game demands you hold a dozen different threads in your mind at once. This creates a profound, deeply unsettling sense of alienation. In RE, you had Barry or Rebecca on the radio. You had a mission, survive, escape. In Lorelei, you are utterly alone and adrift in a sea of abstraction. That feeling of intellectual isolation is in its own way far more unsettling than any zombie. This is why Lorelei is, for me, a postmodern Resident Evil. It's not just an imitator, it's a critique. It deconstructed the 1996 original, identified its most art house and unique element, the puzzle box architecture, and proved that element is strong enough to carry an entire brilliant game all on its own. It's an argument that the countless Resident Evil imitators that just copy the surface-level elements, the fixed cameras, the zombies, the tank controls, are all missing the point. This puts a massive, bright spotlight on the future of the Resident Evil franchise. I love the remakes. Resident Evil 4 Remake is a flawless 10 out of 10 masterpiece of action horror, but it's not a puzzle box. It's a brilliant, linear shooting gallery. Village is a glorious horror theme park, moving you from one ride to the next. But what was the one section of Village that everyone talked about? The one that burned itself into the collective community brain, House Beneviento. Why? Because it was a pure, isolated puzzle box. It stripped you of your weapons and forced you to engage with the space and its riddles. It was a mini Lorelei dropped in the middle of an action game, and the audience went wild for it. Even more telling is the Resident Evil 2 remake. Why is the Raccoon City Police Department section almost universally considered the high watermark of the entire modern series? Because it is the Spencer Mansion 2.0. It's the exact same design philosophy, a central hub, a series of themed keys, the spade, the diamond, the club, the heart, a complex multi-layered map, shortcuts you have to unlock from the other side. It proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this formula is not dated. It is timeless. The success of the RPD is the ultimate argument for Lorelei's entire thesis. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes proves that audiences are not just ready for this kind of design, they are starving for it. We are smart. We don't just want to be scared, and we don't just want to shoot monsters. We want a space that challenges us, that respects our intelligence, and that refuses to give up its secrets easily. As we look to head to Resident Evil Requining, or whatever RE9 ends up being, Capcom should be paying just as much attention to Lorelei as it does to RE4's combat. It is the perfect blueprint for the future. It's the other, forgotten half of Resident Evil's soul. With Resident Evil Requining on the horizon, do you think Capcom should dial back the blockbuster action and give us another truly complex Spencer Mansion-style labyrinth? Or has the series simply evolved past that formula for good? Let me know your take in the comments. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive analysis, subscribe for more.